I have always heard about the Marx Brothers. I've always seen little parodies of them in a lot of TV shows I love, like Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. They're just a part of American culture, and I had very limited exposure to them. And now that I saw A Night at the Opera, I'm quite sad that I didn't grow up with them, because they are so fun, and they're zany, and their comedy, you find bits of it here and there that are dated. Bits that, you know, I just didn't get. Jokes that were over my head, or reference things that aren't part of our culture anymore. But by and large, I would say 99% of their humor is still just as good today as it was back then. And especially, they come from the Depression era. And, you know, where we've just come out of this really, really big recession. I think a lot of their jokes about money and things like that really, really play to us now in a very similar way to the way it did to people back then.
So one of the first things that you should know about the Marx Brothers is their movies are not for everyone. This is, however, one of the first movies that they did that really had some meat to it. Before, their act was very vaudeville, different little scenarios that they would put together and travel around with. This was one of the first movies they did that actually had a significant plot, real story to it.
If you've ever seen Looney Tunes, Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, I mean any of those types of shows, you've seen references to this movie. Probably a lot of them. Almost every bit of humor in all of those cartoons comes right out of this movie. They do everything you could even think to do with the Opera House as their playground. They go up the fly system, they fly on the backdrops, they do all sorts of crazy stunts on the set. One of my favorite moments is they replace the music in all the musicians' stands.
One of the things that I love about this movie, and about the Marx Brothers in general, is they each fill their own niche. Groucho has the really sarcastic sense of humor.
Do you follow me?
Yes.
Well, stop following me, or I'll have you arrested.
Chico really has all of his own little language, his own little accent that he does, and he can do puns, he can do just different plays on words and things.
It's all right. That's in every contract. That's what they call a sanity clause. You can't fool me. There ain't no sanity clause.
Harpo does the physical comedy because he never actually speaks. Everything he does is over the top, physical, overly comedic. It's amazing.
Something I love about the Marx Brothers is the speeches that usually Groucho gives, although really anytime he or Chico give a speech, it is hilarious.
So now I tell you how we fly to America. The first time we started, we get a halfway across when we run out of gasoline, and we gotta go back.
Let joy be unconfined. Let there be dancing in the streets, drinking in the saloons, and necking in the parlor.
But one of the other truly significant things about these brothers is that they're all super talented musically. They all do really great things, and they don't always utilize that in their movies, but they are amazing when you sit them down with their instrument that they're really good at.
There's a song that Harpo plays, and I'm not a harp player, but I've never seen the harp used the way he used it, and it was really, really neat. And there's a little gag number they do on the piano that, again, it was musical humor. It's, in a way I'd never seen. It's very, very smart, but it's also incredibly impressive. They're not phoning it in. They're not giving it half of their effort. They are totally bringing intense talent to every minute of those musical numbers, and it's fabulous.
One of my favorite scenes is the contract scene. Groucho and Chico are talking about contracts for their clients and what to include and what not to include, and that's really where you get to see how well their different types of humor connect, how well they can play off of each other. While Groucho is being very dry and very sarcastic, you have Chico who is doing the play on words, and that scene, I've never seen anything quite like it, where two people were doing two different styles of comedy, and it was working so well. It was connecting so well. A big favorite of most everybody who's seen this movie is the stateroom scene.
It's called that because he has this little tiny cabin on a cruise ship, and it's a stateroom. And so Groucho's in there, and both of the other Marx Brothers and this one other guy in the story, they snuck in his giant suitcase. So they're in there, and he orders dinner, so then you get waiters coming in, and then you get somebody coming in to check the temperature, and then you get the assistant to come in to check the temperature, and you get somebody coming in to give a manicure, and every single person that comes, you keep thinking Groucho's gonna say, no, no, we're full, but he keeps saying, come on in, come on in, come on in. And by the time it's all said and done, there's absolute chaos in the room. I think they said there were more than 15 people in that room all at the same time.
Overall, I would give A Night at the Opera 5 stars. It's really great fun. It has a really nice little story, a really happy ending. It ties up nicely. I think overall, I think anybody can enjoy this movie.
As great as this movie is, it's not perfect. It's got its flaws. Some of them were technical flaws. You'll see blips in the film from time to time just because that's the way movies were made back then, and I guess they didn't have enough coverage. So there are several of those that happen throughout. But as far as the content of the film, it is just, it's fantastic. I would give it between 4 and 5 stars. I'm gonna say 4 stars just because there's a few places right in the middle where it kind of was a little slow, and the story kind of disappeared for a few minutes. But because it's Marx Brothers, the fact that it had a story, it all was amazing. So I give it 4 stars, but I really want to give it 5. They went and they toured this show as a vaudeville act first to see how audiences would react to it. And then they made revisions to the script as they went to see what played and what didn't play. And as you hear about scenes that were cut and scenes that were kept, it becomes apparent how effective that was as a way to sort of preview the show. In fact, the stateroom scene, which is, again, it's one of the most classic scenes in the movie, if not in all of cinema, was going to be cut. It just wasn't playing with the audiences. And then one night, Groucho ad-libbed the entire scene, his part of the entire scene, and the audience just was dying. And that, ultimately, is the version that ended up in the movie. They wrote down what he said.
This film is considered a classic, even by our government. It's in the National Film Registry. It was actually adopted in 1993.
In case you don't believe me that this movie is amazing even by today's standards, it currently has a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's better than probably most anything you've seen in years.
The 2 leads in this movie, who are actually the opera singers that the whole film kind of revolves around, are not actually singers, but they sang for themselves, which was kind of unique for the day, to get 2 people to sing such intense music who weren't actual professional singers.
One story that I heard before I ever saw this movie that really kind of sold me on the Marx Brothers humor was they made a movie called A Night in Casablanca, and over at Warner Brothers they heard they were doing this and they wanted to sue them because of Casablanca, and so they sent them this letter, the cease and desist letter. And Groucho sent them back a letter and he said, "I would just like to congratulate Warner Brothers on their acquisition of the town of Casablanca. I didn't realize you owned the rights to the whole city. Consequently, we'd like to countersue you because we were the Marx Brothers before you were the Warner Brothers, and we'd like to sue you for using part of our name in your studio." And consequently, Warner Brothers did not send any reply, and the suit was dropped.
Many of you who enjoy the Marx Brothers sense of humor on the screen might like to know that they had kind of a similar personality off the screen. When they were called into their producer's office for a meeting and he was running late, they ended up taking off all of their clothes and piling up all of his office furniture up by his fireplace like they were burning it to keep warm. He ended up being about 3 hours late for that meeting, but he was never late again. If you really enjoyed A Night at the Opera, some other movies you could check out are Duck Soup, which is one of the other classic Marx Brothers movies, and a movie that we will be reviewing soon called Double Dynamite, which stars Groucho Marx and Frank Sinatra.
Thanks for watching. Keep an eye on our channel. We'll have lots more great reviews coming, as well as a ton of other fun content that you can check out now, and there'll be more of that coming too. So you can follow us on Twitter, you can like us on Facebook, and please subscribe to our channel for more. We'll see you soon.